Does the IRS have your boat listed as a second home, hobby, or business? We'll explore the new tax laws and more next.
This is Captain's Log with your host, Captain Mark Gray. Welcome aboard. Blending comfort, performance, and value, Catalina Yachts continue a tradition of building outstanding sailboats in every class. Sail the Catalina 30 and experience the successful combination of a modern, efficient hull shape with spacious accommodations that create the perfect balance in a modern racer cruiser. America's largest sailboat manufacturer invites you to call a Catalina yacht dealer in your area today.
Please welcome our guest, Jan Lindsay, CPA. Could you tell us about the new tax laws as it relates to boating?
Certainly, Mark. I think probably many of your listeners have heard all kinds of horror stories about the effect of the new tax laws. I'm sure one of the things that has given them a great deal of concern is the interest on personal debt no longer being deductible. The good news, though, is that primary residence and the secondary residence interest is deductible.
So does this mean that if your boat is declared as a second home, then this becomes deductible?
That's correct. If your boat qualifies as a second residence, the interest on that boat will continue to be deductible under the Internal Revenue Code.
Is the maintenance and everything as it's associated with a home, is that deductible also?
No, Mark, it's not deductible. And also an important distinction, all boat interest is not qualified as a second home interest. The IRS has just recently issued a ruling that said for a boat to qualify as a second residence, it has to have restroom facilities and kitchen facilities on board. So interest on your daily runabout probably will not be deductible.
Let me ask this, if you put a porta potty on and had a little camp type cook stove, that does qualify, right?
Well, that's a real interesting question. I guess that's why we have lots of court cases.
Right. And what are some of the other rules, new laws?
Well, I think one thing that existed under prior law was the deductibility of sales tax on the acquisition of a boat. If you pay $100,000 for a boat, the sales tax was $6,000, which was a substantial deduction on your tax return. Under the new tax law, that's no longer the case. The sales tax deduction is no longer available on a personal boat. Another item that still is deductible, of course, is the personal property tax that you pay to the local county assessor every year for your boat.
That's a very small amount, though, usually, right? But it helps.
Every little bit helps. You know.
How does it relate if you put your boat down as a hobby?
Well, I think the question is whether a boat or your boat is a business or a hobby. If a boat is part of an ongoing trade or business, the Internal Revenue Service allows deduction for all expenses related to the boat. Now, earlier you asked about maintenance costs as an example. On a personal boat, that's not deductible. However, if the boat were to be classified as a business, all expenses, maintenance, dockage, repairs, depreciation, fuel, every expense related to the conduct of an ongoing trade or business is deductible.
What makes it a business? I mean, an office space in the boat or taking people out for business trips? What does qualify it?
Under the Internal Revenue Code, you're dealing with a very complex and it deals with intent. What is the intent? The courts have held that if you enter into a transaction with a reasonable expectation of making a profit, it constitutes an ongoing trade or business. That obviously requires the IRS to look at your expectations when you enter into the business. One of the primary things that the Internal Revenue Service is going to look at is, did you make a profit? If you have continuous losses, the boat will be will not be allowed as a business asset.
Although I understand the first 3 years you're in business, they assume you're going to lose money.
Well, that's true. And there are what we call presumptions under the Internal Revenue Code. And the first presumption is that if a boat turns a profit, or any trader business turns a profit, in 2 out of the first 5 consecutive years, there's a presumption that it was entered into as a transaction for profit. Now, I want to underscore that that's simply a presumption. I'm sure everybody can think of many businesses that have lost money consecutively for 4, 5, 6 years that are honest-to-God businesses. To rebut that presumption, though, requires careful documentation. One of the issues is, what kind of business is it? Very often in boats, as an example, we see charter as a business. So the question comes up, is this something that you're involved in full-time? Is it something that you just do on weekends? What percentage of your time and your effort, as well as your capital, is tied up in the conduct of this business?
What if, let me ask this, say that I'm a producer, someone owns a shop of some sort, whatever, other than the normal boating business, charters and all, and I produce my show from my boat because it's convenient, okay? What constitutes that? If I use the boat for my office and I'm there all day on call and all my phone bills come in there, does that qualify?
It could very well in that fact circumstance. I would caution anybody with a boat that is attempting to use it as a business deduction to carefully document the use of the vessel. A log, ongoing maintained log, as in your example, that would track when your boat was used as an office or any personal use.
So that's where the logbook comes in handy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And it is a legal document only if it's stitched, glued, and bound.
Now, one thing that I really want to emphasize, and this is a source of a great deal of confusion, under previous code sections, going back now maybe 3 or 4 years, boats could be deducted for their entertainment use. So if I took out my business customers as an example, and I carefully maintained a log, I could deduct a portion of that boat as an entertainment expense.
Let me stop here because we only have a couple minutes left and ask you about a hobby. I understand that when you sell a boat, you can deduct up to 100% of what you put into that boat as a hobby. Is that correct?
No, I think you're confusing hobby loss versus a business loss. If a boat is a personal asset, which would be the case as a hobby, gains on the sale of the boat are taxable, losses are not deductible. As a business asset, gains or losses are taxable according to whether it's a gain or a loss.
So I guess the important message is that the tax laws are very complex and people should plan ahead, perhaps a year ahead, go down and talk to a CPA and work out your game plan.
Very much so, and especially under the new code sections due to the complexity that Congress has built into the law now.
Okay, well, I sure do appreciate this, sir, and we'll be back with Beauchamp Motion. That's Boating Fashion in Motion next.
Good.
Marina sailing, experience it, the vacation of a lifetime. Islands to explore, sheltered coves to discover, clear water to enjoy. You say you don't know how to sail? Well, that's okay, because we've been teaching people to sail for over 25 years. In fact, we're California's oldest and largest sailing club with 70 boats and 3 locations to serve you. Come on down, take the challenge. We're Marina Sailing.
Welcome to Beauchamp Motion, Boating Fashion in Motion, with Miss Donna Russell of Ventura Bikini. Could you tell us something about the average age of your so-called average customer, Donna?
Well, we get customers of all ages, but I'd say the average would be maybe middle 30s. So it's not just a bikini shop, it's a swimwear shop.
And you do a lot of custom work, and I understand that's very advantageous to people as their body grows or shrinks, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get on with the show.
Okay. Our first model is Cherie Bouchard. She's wearing a point conception suit. It's in the peach and the mint color. It's got a bit of a slide that it's adjustable on the bottom. You can make it, uh-oh, she's being attacked by a bee. It's got the bandeau top. It's got a very nice back. The color's great. It comes in a few different colors. Thank you very much, Cherie. Okay, our next suit.
Oh my God.
I think it's your suntan oil. Our next suit is being worn by Rose Simmons. It's an island girl. It's in the blue and yellow. It's a slide bottom that you can adjust in the front to be worn as small or as big as you want when you want to be active on the beach. It's got the twist top and it's very nice colors for Rose. Thank you. Our next model is Kevin Mikela. He's wearing a Ventura bikini shirt with a bit of an abstract design in the front. He's wearing club corduroy shorts, very, very durable for the beach. They have elastic. They have a nice back pocket, 2 front pockets. Also has adjustable string to cinch them up a little tighter if you need. Thank you, Kevin. And our last suit is being worn by my daughter, Dana Russell. It's a beautiful island girl monokini. You can get this in any different colors you'd like. This one is nice with the rose top and the green bottom. It has a nice back on it too, and with the crisscross in the back, very good for active wear. Thank you very much, and back to Mark.
Thank you, Donna. We appreciate that. My next guest is Paul Mccauley, Vice President of the National Boat Owners Association. Paul, could you elaborate on your brief boating history experience? And I would like to say that you're also Captain Paul Mccauley.
That's
Is that
correct.
right?
I've been working with the ocean for the past 18 years, both in pleasure and work. I've been a licensed Coast Guard captain for the past 10 years, and right now I hold a 1,000-ton master's for freight and towing. And I've been a tugboat captain, an oil supply boat captain. I've been a chief mate on ocean construction vessels, and throughout the last 10 years.
Okay. Could you elaborate on the NBOA, or National Boat Owners Association, what that involves?
Well, the National Boat Owners Association has been organized by 3 individuals, myself, my brother Pete Mccauley, who is a graduate of Pepperdine University in Business Management, and Stan Hubble, who is the other vice president and has also been in the marine industry for many years. We came together to form the NBOA because of the need for some type of AAA coverage for ocean pleasure boaters, similar to an auto club, due to the fact that the Coast Guard has stopped doing non-emergency towing 3 years ago. And this has left kind of a hole in the boating safety area, and also it's costing the the pleasure boaters a tremendous amount of money. If their boat does have a minor mechanical breakdown at sea, they call the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard will now refer them to a commercial towing service, which today's Southern California rates are upwards of $125 an hour from the time they leave the dock until the time they return. So an average towing bill is upwards of $500, and it can be up into $1,000, even more if you're on the backside of Catalina or one of the popular islands.
So this is kind of an insurance policy for, how much does it cost, by the way, per year?
Well, it's included with the membership in the National Boat Owners Association, and for $95 a year as the annual membership fee, I might want to add that we offer a 10% refund for any type of boat safety class or boat safety certificate or boat safety inspection. And so you can get it as low as $85 a year, and we offer $2,500 worth of towing coverage reimbursement. And we have made agreements with most all the professional towers up and down the coast. They're the ones that are licensed, insured, and on the Coast Guard referral list for commercial service to accept our membership card, actually in lieu of payment, and they will bill us directly for towing costs. In the event that you can't find one of those or get a hold of them, or they're towing somebody else, anybody the Coast Guard refers to you for commercial assistance is reimbursable for a full $2,500 up to, and there's no limit to how many times you can use it. There's no deductible. We simply are going to get you from a non-negotiable position adrift at sea We're going to get you professional towing service, and it's not going to cost you.
Or I understand you can bring out gas. I mean,
Well,
a good captain should not run out of gas, but
That's right.
sometimes the weather might pick up and it takes, you know, more gas to get back than you may have planned.
And a lot of boaters rely on fuel gauges on a boat, which is something a good skipper should never do. You should always have some type of a dipstick or whatever, because of the motion of the ocean, everything, corrosion, all kinds of things cause fuel gauges to go haywire. But in the event you do run out of fuel, we offer to tow your vessel to the nearest fuel station. We don't deliver fuel only because of the danger of transferring fuel at sea. All they can deliver is enough fuel to get you back to the fuel station anyway, so we pay for the tow to the fuel station
For
where you
safety.
can fill up for safety. But we will deliver parts. If you have a problem with your boat and you can continue your voyage and you need a part delivered, we will pay for the delivery of that part plus a half-hour standby time.
In case the part doesn't work, then you
case
have
there's
the
a
guy there to
continued
tow you.
problem. Right.
That's excellent. I understand you also have a segment in your policy there, whatever, of Trip Tack. Could you
Trip
explain
Track.
that to us?
Well, Trip Track is just one of the many services we offer in the membership, which is a free service, and it's a way of logging your float plan. We have linked it up with our computer, and it's got an exclusive toll-free number. You call the 800 number. You can call it from the dock. If you forget, you can even call it from the marine operator. If you forget to log your float plan even after you left on your trip. The computer answers the phone. The computer asks you several questions. We already have on file as a member all the vessel description, your VHF call signs, your safety equipment, all that as a member is already on our file.
I see. So like by phone, you have to answer questions by hitting buttons on the phone?
Well, no, the computer will actually ask you questions.
And you can verbally tell
You
it.
will verbally tell the computer all the vessel information. It will be stored and recorded, and a check-in time. We want to know who's on board, who's the skipper, where you're going. Tell us about your trip, where the skipper can just ramble on. He may decide because of weather conditions to change his trip. If the weather's out of the south, I might go to this side of the island or that side.
So he can call in and make that alteration.
He can talk as long as he wants about his trip, and then give us the phone number of a friend or relative to call in the event they don't check in with us on their return, and if they don't check in, we start checking up on them.
So before you call out the National Guard, you might say, or the Coast Guard, you check with the people that should be aware of the situation. But for non-boating people, a lot of people don't realize you can make a phone call from your marine radio.
That's right.
And usually it has to be collect unless you have a credit card.
Well, what we've tried to do is make it as convenient for the boater as possible, so they'll use it. And a float plan, if it isn't filed, it's might as well
worthless,
never been filled out. And so right from the dock, you can go up to the phone booth, you can call, and even, like I say, if you're checking out the harbor and you go, oh, I forgot to file my float plan, you can call the marine operator and file it right over the radio. And like I say, we do ask for the number of a friend or relative because we don't want to be logging false overdues with the Coast Guard. So we do emphasize that we do need a check-in, and you call when you're safely
That also,
back.
like, say that you forget to call in and say I'm back, then you call that person first and try to run them down.
That's why we want the name and the phone number of a friend or relative, and if they just come home and they're sitting having dinner in a restaurant or at the bar or whatever, we try to track them down through a friend first, and before we call the Coast Guard and actually put out the alert.
Right.
But if we do put out the alert, it's a full, the Coast Guard has everything.
Everything. Well, I appreciate it, sir, and we'll be back with Sea Tales right after this.
Ventura Harbor Village is a colorful waterfront complex with over 40 varieties of shops, international cuisine, and even a nostalgic carousel just for fun. Whether you take a harbor cruise or just watch the fishermen unload their catch of the day, it's a great place for the whole family. Ventura Harbor Village, located on Spinnaker Drive in the Ventura Harbor. Public docks are available for those coming by boat.
walking to a new tomorrow, a life for you and I. Let our imagination set the course along the way. We'll reach our destination along the road from yesterday. Oh, sail away with me. Forever with you is where I want to be. Have you ever touched a rainbow?
Please welcome my guest for Sea Tales, Mr. John White of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you for having me.
I understand in the years and years of boating experience that you have quite a few stories. Could you tell our audience one that might have a nice safety message with it?
Well, probably one of the most abused habits that the boaters get into, especially inside of a harbor, is having children or people riding on the bow of a boat. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just in the bow section. We had a case, a young lady was riding on the forward cabin of about a 26-footer. And I don't recall the reason for it, but the boat suddenly changed direction. She slid off of the top of that cabin and went right through the forward hatch. And the forward hatch in this case happened to be glass.
God.
And she was very, very seriously injured. Her legs were badly cut, and she did come through it fine and dandy. But please, I urge parents, don't let anybody ride on the bow, and especially should a child or anybody else go over the side. Well, you just never want to see the looks of a person that's been hit with a propeller.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Fall off the bow, and the natural place for their body to go is under the boat,
Yes.
right into the propeller.
Absolutely.
So it is very dangerous.
That's why when you have a man overboard situation, you have a man over on the starboard side,
Being the right side for our non-boating friends.
well, right side.
I'll help you out there, John.
Always turn the boat toward the man. A lot of people don't think about that, but in the case of a boat, the bow doesn't move, the stern does. And if you turn the boat to the right, you're moving the stern away from that man that falls over on the right-hand side of the boat. You're moving the propeller away from him. And
So
that is-
basically, so people can really understand, if the man overboard is here and you're going this way and he fell over, could you do a little diagram like that with your hands? I think it helps them understand a little
if
more.
this is the vessel and the man falls overboard on right-hand side, starboard side, whatever, always turn toward him. Because
That way your stern goes away
The stern
from
moves away from the man, and you can come around and come back up. And of course, one of the reasons for a throw of a PFD, or personal flotation device,
Such
that is
as this
required-
one right back
yes,
here.
that is required on boats today, is the main reason for it, is to mark the spot where the man went over the side.
Right, because in a small choppy wave, I have noticed, I have white buoys that mark my anchor line when I'm out at the islands and I want to sail around, and I put the white, buoys on the anchor, and if there's a little tiny wave, you can't see those, and they stick out tremendously. So a man's head in the water, it's very easy to lose,
I'll
or
give you
at least have international colors.
I'll give you a little word of caution on that buoy that you're using. Be sure when you secure it on there, you do it at high water. Because if you do it at low water, that buoy's going to pick your anchor right up off the bottom, and you're going to be adrift.
I always leave a lot of rode or extra line, and then I coil the extra line and drop that down as a
Yes.
weight. So
Definitely.
that is a good tip. So, pardon?
Just another thing that I would like to tip the boaters off to: please learn the area in which you are operating. Years ago, we lost a man here. He was bringing a boat up from Channel Islands Marina to Ventura Marina. And I can't tell you that this is the absolute truth, but I was told the man tried to make it in 3 times. But he was going in the inlet of the Mandalay power plant, And I thoroughly believe that that man thought he was going into the entrance at Ventura Marina.
Yeah.
And by virtue of the fact that he attempted it 3 times. And of course, we will never know because he lost his life.
Well, we're running out of time, so I do want to thank you, sir, for being on. And you know, these little safety stories are aimed at saving people's lives. I'm sure that if people watch the show and it does sink in, you know, it will make a difference.
Yeah.
And this has been Captain's Log saying, be safe and watch Captain's Log. Thank you. So, John.